Hi, I'm Nora. I planned a vacation to save my marriage, paid for every ticket, every meal, every smile. But what I found instead was my husband and my sister, holding hands in a candlelit chapel, reciting vows that didn't include me. And when I opened his suitcase, a ring box. Not with my name. What would you do if your family replaced you and thought you wouldn't notice? Are you watching this late at night or during your lunch break? Have you ever felt erased by the people who were supposed to protect you? Drop a comment below. I'm really curious how stories like this hit different based on where and when you hear them. Santorini was supposed to be a reset, a place where lavender skies could blur the edges of our broken marriage. But the moment our plane touched down and Travis smiled wider than he had in months, I felt the wrongness tighten like a fist around my ribs. Miriam had arranged the transportation, of course. "Less for you to worry about," she said, patting my arm like I was an overworked hostess instead of her daughter-in-law. Lori Ray practically skipped through the villa gates, her hair caught in the sun, her voice too sweet. "You're going to love the surprise we planned," she told me that night over dinner. "It's something unforgettable." I smiled like I didn't already feel like the outsider in my own trip. Travis barely met my eyes. His laughter landed more easily around her. The next morning, a spa car waited outside the villa. "It's all set," Miriam said. "Facial, massage, full reset. You've earned this." She pressed the itinerary into my palm. 8 hours, off resort. "They'll drive you. It's all prepaid." I hesitated. "I didn't book this." Miriam just smiled. "Of course you didn't. We took care of you." The receptionist at the spa slipped the wrong line. "They're really going all out with today's prep. So sweet of them." "Who's they?" I asked. She blinked, confused. "Mr. Cade and Miss Ray, I assume? Aren't you the maid of honor?" I left before the facial, before the massage, before the charade. Something pulled me toward the cliffside path behind the villas. The air smelled like salt and jasmine. Somewhere down the winding road, a chapel blinked in the distance, candlelight flickering through the arched windows. The chapel wasn't on the resort map, but it was real, and it was occupied. I kept to the side, barefoot on cool tile. Inside, Travis stood beneath white orchids, holding Lori's hand. He wore the suit I got tailored for our anniversary, now altered at the waist. She was in white, her dress flowing like something borrowed and something stolen. Miriam adjusted the veil. Gerald nodded at a woman holding a legal folder. "She has no idea," Lori whispered. Travis leaned in. "After today, it's all ours." My chest didn't collapse. My knees didn't give. I didn't run. I memorized. The smell of the flowers, the cadence of their lies, the shadow of my husband's smile meant for someone else. They planned this. They planned to erase me, and I just caught them rehearsing it. I turned before anyone saw me, stepped back into the night, the gravel sharp under my feet, the sound of waves crashing below like applause for a show I was never invited to. They thought I was at a spa. Tomorrow, I'll be gone, for real. I didn't cry. Not when I walked back to the villa. Not when Travis offered me a glass of wine like nothing had happened. Not even when I lay next to him that night, staring at the ceiling as he snored with the ease of someone unbothered. My body was there, but everything else inside me had shut off like a tripped breaker. The image of them in that chapel burned into my skull. Lori's veil, the candles, his hand on hers. My breath had stayed shallow all night, as if grief had taken up space where air should have been. I didn't speak. He didn't notice. 8 months ago, back in Charleston, I was sitting on the bakery floor, folding delivery invoices, while Travis played with Lori's new travel camera at the counter. I remember because it was the night he told me he couldn't come to the fertility consult the next morning. "Too much going on at work," he'd said, scrolling through photos of Lori laughing by the river. He didn't show up the day I miscarried either. That was 2 years ago. I came home with hospital socks still on and found him asleep, a beer in one hand, TV remote in the other. The silence had stretched like smoke between us ever since. Tonight, that smoke curled into something solid. He was in the shower when I opened his suitcase. I told myself I was looking for my moisturizer. I lied. Beneath a folded navy shirt tucked near his belt was a small black box, velvet, new. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were 2 silver rings. Simple, modern, engraved. Cade plus Ray. I sat down on the floor, the box in my lap. My breath felt like broken glass. The rings were too clean, too confident. The kind of gift meant to mark a beginning. I didn't hear the water shut off, didn't care. Later, when I turned the ring over, I saw it. Beneath the engraving, faint but still visible, Cade plus Nora. The N was scratched, not polished. A last-minute change. He had meant these for me. Maybe. Or maybe I was just a placeholder all along. The first draft of the life he really wanted to write. I placed both rings side by side on the table, one shining with intention, the other scarred with the weight of a second thought. I was the first choice, maybe the only one, but somewhere along the way, I became optional, and I didn't know if I would ever let him put a ring on me again. The message arrived just after sunrise, a ping, quiet and sharp, like a pebble against a glass window. I was sitting on the patio trying to drink coffee that had long gone cold, when my cousin Ava's name lit up my screen. Hey, is this real? I opened it. A screenshot. My face tilted mid-yawn, eyes half-lidded in a thin gray nightgown I barely remembered owning. The caption? Some people should never try lace. Posted by Lori, deleted 3 hours later. Not fast enough. My throat closed. The world tilted. This wasn't private anymore. It wasn't just a betrayal behind my back. It was a joke, and I was the punchline. I stared at the image again. The lighting didn't match the villa. My eyes scanned the background, the mirror, the worn bookshelf, the chipped dresser. It was my bedroom in Charleston. Lori had taken this photo weeks ago, when she stayed with us just to reset before her next project. I had made her tea, lent her my good towels, told her she could stay as long as she needed. She said, "You're like a second mom." I smiled like that meant something. She planned this, before the chapel, before Santorini. While I was still defending her to Travis, I opened Instagram. The story was gone, but the damage wasn't. There were comments beneath it, screenshotted by Ava, of course. Oof! Awkward. She really posted that? I kept scrolling. Someone had tagged Travis. Someone else had commented, "Damn, cold." I thought back to last night's dinner. The clinking of glasses, Lori's laugh rising higher than it needed to, Travis smirking at something I couldn't hear, Miriam's hand resting gently on Lori's shoulder like she was the one being celebrated. And me? I had passed the bread, said nothing, pretended to belong. But they weren't laughing at a private joke. They were laughing at me, at my body, at my softness, at my sleep. I closed the app. My thumb hovered over the shared Google Photos folder Travis and I had kept since our engagement. I opened it, scrolled through pictures of us building the bakery, visiting his parents, fake smiles at holidays. Lori was in so many of them, standing just slightly closer than necessary, always centered, always untouched. I selected the entire folder, clicked remove access, then I deleted it. I didn't flinch. I sat still for a moment longer listening to the quiet. Then I opened a new album, untitled. They took the first shot. Now it's my turn to aim. The laughter floated from the garden terrace like it belonged to a different planet. I was walking past the lounge area when I heard Miriam's voice, low and honeyed, the way she always spoke when pretending the knife wasn't in your back. She'll be a memory by next week. Travis needs a real future. The words didn't hit. They landed, right in the hollow of my ribs. I didn't move, just stood there, one foot half raised on the path, like my body couldn't decide whether to run or listen. The woman she was speaking to chuckled softly and replied, "You've planned this well." Miriam answered with something that wasn't quite a laugh. Well, someone had to think long term. Later that night, back in the villa, I opened my travel folder, not for documents, just for something to hold on to. And there it was, a copy of the deed to our house in Charleston. My name was listed, but not alone. Travis Cade and Gerald Sloan, executor and trustee. I read that line 4 times. My chest hollowed. Gerald, his father. Not mine. Not even someone I trusted. Just a man who played golf on Tuesdays and looked through me at Thanksgiving. That house had been mine first. I bought it after years of saving, selling cupcakes out of my Honda until the bakery had walls. I paid the down payment. I signed the first lease. I hired the plumber when the pipes burst that first year. And now, it was his. Theirs. A line flickered in my memory. Travis saying, "It's just for tax protection, babe. You'll thank me next year." Miriam chiming in, "Estate planning matters. You're being emotional." They were right. I had been, but not anymore. I scanned the document, saved a PDF, emailed it to myself with the subject line, "Emergency Personal." I stared at the screen for a full minute before closing it. I remembered Travis's smile as he toasted Lori with champagne. "To new beginnings," he had said, like I was already gone. My reflection wavered in the dark glass of the sliding door. Behind me, the villa shimmered with candles and staged joy. If I was a legal stranger in my own home, they better pray I stay silent. I didn't know what I expected when I called my father. Maybe the kind of silence that follows deep listening, or the scratchy sound of his chair creaking as he leaned forward, waiting for me to say it. "I need you." What I got was a sigh. "You're still there?" he asked. "Santorini, right?" I tried to keep my voice steady. "I'm not okay, Dad. It's Travis and Lori. He cut me off. "Nora, maybe Travis is just doing what he has to. A man needs legacy. You can't give him that." My chest hollowed. "He's not wrong to want something that lasts," he added. The call dropped before I could say anything else. Not that there was anything left to say. I stared at the black screen like it had personally betrayed me. Then I tossed the phone on the bed and turned toward my suitcase. I wasn't looking for anything, just movement. Escape. At the bottom, under a sweater I hadn't touched since the flight, was a small, battered keepsake box. I hadn't seen it in years. The clasp still stuck slightly to the left. Inside, a friendship bracelet, a photo of me holding a fourth-place science fair ribbon, and a cassette tape labeled in my handwriting. 08.04, Dad's car. I slid the tape into the player I brought for travel audiobooks, the hiss of cheap plastic, and then, "You should stop babying her, Liz. She's not going to make it out there if you keep treating her like she's special." Then a pause. My mother didn't answer. Dad again. "Nora folds under pressure. She always has. You just don't want to admit it." I stopped breathing. I was 9. I'd cried after a piano recital. He drove me home in silence. I remember now. He turned the radio up to drown me out. For so long, I had tried to prove him wrong. Bake better, work harder, love deeper. I thought if I just did everything right, he'd see me differently. He never did. The tape kept playing, but I had already heard enough. I sat by the window, the player still humming behind me, and watched the night pour ink across the sea. "I'm not folding," I whispered. "I'm learning." I opened my phone, deleted his contact, then I opened my notes app and started a file. Title, Plan A. I wrote one line. "If no one else can protect me, then I will." The sun was soft gold when I opened the folder. I had meant to grab my passport. Travis mentioned needing it for some group check-in, but what I pulled out instead stopped the air in my lungs. A property deed. Charleston, our house, Travis Cade, Gerald Sloan, executor, trustee. My name was there too, buried under legal terminology like dead leaves. But the line for my signature? Empty. Filed by Miriam Sloan. I blinked, then again. But the words didn't move. The house I built, the one I bought with catering checks and weekends without sleep. The bakery space attached to it. The first home that ever felt like mine. And now it was being transferred to Travis and his father. I sat on the edge of the bed, the folder slipping from my lap. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a hand slipping into my pocket and taking everything. I scrolled through my phone and found his name. Ben Harwood, notary, an old friend from my banking days. I hadn't spoken to him in years. I called. "Nora? I need to know something," I said. "A deed, Charleston property, filed by Miriam Sloan. Did you notarize it?" He hesitated. "I remember that name. Yeah. They came to me 3 weeks ago, had a packet of documents, said it was urgent estate planning." "Did you file it?" "No," he said. It felt off. I held it. "I was going to follow up with you, but—" His voice trailed. "You did the right thing," I said. "Thank you." That was the moment it changed. Not the betrayal. That had already happened. The shift came with the knowledge that I still had time to stop it. I opened my laptop. First, the accounts, joint, household, savings. One by one, I accessed them through my emergency codes and froze them. Then I canceled Travis's access to the business card tied to the bakery. I'd let him use it for marketing. Not anymore. I opened a blank spreadsheet, titled it, What They Owe. There were no formulas, just a list. 3 years of mortgage payments, 8 months of therapy I paid for while he soul-searched, 1 miscarriage, 2 betrayal rings, 1 bakery, my name. I typed. Then I opened a new browser tab and searched. Real estate fraud attorney, Charleston, SC. The sun had dipped by the time I reached the patio. The horizon was stained orange and wine. I sat down at the edge of the pool, the tiles still warm beneath me. They came for my name, I whispered. They'll have to answer to it. I pressed send on the lawyer's form. Subject, urgent legal breach involving estate fraud. I woke to a voice message from Alyssa. Her tone was tight, not panicked, focused. Nora, she began, I didn't know if I should send this, but you need to hear it. A short pause, then static, then voices, familiar, sharp-edged, giddy. She'll sign it, she always does, Miriam said. Lori replied, laughing. Once she's out, all that's left is to move in. The sound cut off. I played it again, then again. But I didn't cry. I smiled. I replied with one word. Thank you. An hour later, another message came through. This time a photo. A half-shredded contract laid out on Alyssa's kitchen table like evidence in a trial. My name was printed across the bottom, signature forged. Above it, the words, Ownership Transfer Delaney and Cade Bakes. They had tried to erase me from my own business. Alyssa included a second image. More papers pulled from the bakery's dumpster, all showing the same thing, reassignment of assets. A trail of theft wrapped in faux professionalism. I didn't call her back. I didn't need to. I saved every file, every photo. I organized them into a private drive, locked and backed up twice. Then I opened my laptop. Subject, intent to commit document fraud. I attached the audio recording, the images, a simple timeline of events, filed the email under a folder named Strategy. I stared at the send button. Not because I was uncertain, but because this wasn't about pain anymore. This was chess. I pressed it. Moments later, my phone rang. Travis. The first time since Santorini. I watched it buzz across the nightstand. He didn't leave a voicemail. I turned the ringer off. The silence that followed was weightless. The woman he left behind? She doesn't exist anymore. The folder was named Shared Docs Honeymoon. I opened it expecting itineraries or receipts. Instead, I saw a file labeled application.pdf. Something about the blandness of the name made my skin tighten. I clicked. The logo at the top was for a fertility clinic. Not in Charleston, not in Santorini, out of state. But the name on the application form was mine, Nora Delaney. Below that, a medical summary, accurate in every excruciating detail. History of miscarriage, tubal scarring, diagnosis, natural conception highly unlikely. The patient's signature wasn't mine, but Travis's was, and next to mine listed as domestic partner, Lori Ray Sloan. I scrolled back to the top, read it again. Every word blurred, but the facts stayed sharp. They had used my records, my history, my inability to carry children, twisted into legal leverage for a child that would never be mine. This wasn't just betrayal, it was bodily theft. I grabbed my phone, dialed the clinic's number listed at the bottom. Hi, yes, I said, voice smooth. This is Nora Delaney. I wanted to confirm the attending physician on file for an IVF application submitted last month. The receptionist was cheery, too cheery. Of course, let me check. Yes, that application was processed under Dr. Madeline Voss. My stomach dropped. Madeline Voss. Lori's college roommate. Pre-med, wild parties, red wine on white couches. A woman I once paid to babysit my niece. Now the woman signing off on a procedure using my body as a legal loophole. I hung up without saying goodbye. Then I moved. I compiled the file, the application, the audio recording from Alyssa, the deed documents, the bakery transfer attempts, the wedding rings, the Instagram post, all of it. I labeled the folder, fraud, medical, domestic, personal. I didn't hesitate. I sent it to my attorney. Then I called the medical licensing board, scheduled a complaint review. I wasn't crying anymore. My voice was clear, measured, surgical. I opened the shared calendar Travis had invited me to last month. Lori plus T wedding week. I deleted it. Then I opened a travel site, one-way flight. Charleston, South Carolina, 6:05 a.m. They stole everything but my spine, and now I'm bringing it all down. The bell above the bakery door chimed exactly the way I remembered. No grand re-entrance, no applause, just that soft, familiar sound, followed by the faint smell of cinnamon and flour that had soaked into the walls over the years. Alyssa looked up from the counter, her eyes glassy. She didn't speak. She just hugged me. Tight. The kind of hug that doesn't need a why, only a "you're home." The bakery had survived. She had kept it breathing. There were notes taped to the window, handwritten cards from regulars, sticky notes with hearts, even one scrawled in crayon. "We missed you, Miss D." On the counter sat a folded newspaper. Headline above the fold, "Influencer Wedding Implodes Amid Legal Storm." Below it, a picture of Lori, blurry, hiding behind oversized sunglasses. The subheadline quoted, "Undisclosed fraud allegations." I didn't need to read it. I had written the ending. Travis and Lori came back in silence. No ceremony, no housewarming, no victory laps. Lori deleted her Instagram account 2 days after the article broke. Travis was removed from his father's firm a week later. A quiet family meeting, I imagine. Less about ethics, more about embarrassment. The lawsuit was dropped on my terms. I didn't want their money. I wanted their access revoked, and it was. I never heard from them directly, not a call, not even a cowardly apology through an attorney, but they knew I knew, that was enough. Some things don't need a reply. Some wounds just stay open because they serve as reminders. I visited the fertility clinic again, just to sit, just to look around. I didn't check in. I didn't even speak to the receptionist. I just needed to feel the air in that space again and let it pass through me differently this time. In my coat pocket was a letter I had written months ago to my father. I had folded it too many times. The creases had gone soft. I reread the last line. "I don't blame you, but I remember everything. I didn't send it." I placed it in the drawer next to the magazines. Quiet, unfiled closure. Back at the bakery, I began replanting herbs in the back garden. The ones Lori said made the bread taste too earthy. A woman came in near closing, asked if I'd be open for Thanksgiving. "Yes," I said. "We are." I pulled out the old business cards, Delaney and Cade. I stared at the ampersand, the piece that pretended we were equals. I crossed it out. Nora Delaney, nothing more, nothing less. I didn't win, but I walked out whole. That's better. Sometimes, the people you trust the most will spend years quietly preparing to erase you. And when you finally see it, when the truth burns so brightly you can't look away, you have a choice. You can collapse, or you can rebuild. I chose to rebuild, not out of revenge, but out of love for myself, my name, my work, my peace. To anyone watching this who's ever felt discarded, replaced, or made to feel small in spaces they helped build, please hear me. You are not disposable, and walking away doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. Now I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to reclaim your space after being pushed out? What did it teach you about yourself? If this story moved you, drop a 1 in the comments or tell me where you're watching from. And if it didn't, tell me why. Let's talk about it. We're building a space here where truth has weight and healing has a voice. If you enjoyed this video and it touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories just like this one. Your story matters, and you're not alone.